Life gives you plenty of choices, so you have to choose the best. At St. Dominic, we give our students the best education they can get and equip them to reach their full potential and fulfill their dreams in their chosen field of expertise. Our education is beyond basic. In preschool, grade school, and junior high school, we instill the necessary foundation of a balanced EQ and IQ quality of education. We set the bar higher and make sure Dominicans excel in every aspect to prepare them well in their life. Parents envision their children to reach their full potential and someday become role models and ideal citizens of our country and even of Asia. This vision has become our mission since St. Dominic was first founded in 2003, and to this day, St. Dominic has mastered the quality of education that we offer from basic education to graduate studies. St. Dominic continuously hones all passionate achievers to become the professionals they dream to become. Because your vision is our mission.
story of St. Dominic College of Asia is a shining example of what a dedicated family is capable of achieving through perseverance, hard work, and cooperation. In 2003, 12 years after the realization of the Dream Hospital, St. Dominic Medical Center in Cavite, St. Dominic College of Arts and Sciences was founded, initially offering programs in caregiving and Bachelor of Science in Nursing in collaboration with SAMC. St. Dominic has evolved into a full-fledged collegiate institution with four schools: School of Health Science Professions, School of Art Sciences and Education, School of International Hospitality and Tourism Management, and School of Business and Computer Studies. In 2007, the college embarked on an ambitious long-term goal which aims to achieve a university status within the next 20 years. Preparations towards accreditation of the academic programs was pursued in earnest. Rebranding strategies were also explored to make the college more relevant, responsive, and congruent with the current trends and practices of a highly globalized educational system. In 2009, St. Dominic College of Arts and Sciences was officially renamed as St. Dominic College of Asia. The change of name was made to allow the college to grow and provide more room for expansion in its programs and services in the years to come. This change redounds to the benefit of the students as it will eventually give them positional advantage in the crowded workplace in the competitive world, for its name reflects the global standards the college stands for. Highlights of this academic transformation includes the launch of the Basic Education Unit, and Level 1 accreditation of Business Administration, Information Technology, Education, Psychology, Hospitality Management, and Nursing programs by the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities Commission and Accreditation in 2014. SDCA continues to strive in achieving excellent service and program offerings. The International Organization for Standardization was awarded to SDCA as a highlight of the 11th founding anniversary. In response with the 2015 ASEAN integration and backed up by our impressive track record in higher education, SDCA reaffirmed our leadership by keeping up with the changes in the Philippine education system. The launch of our progressive and industry-responsive senior high school in 2016. Same year, SDCA Graduate School offered Master in Business Administration and Master of Arts in Psychology, proved to the community indeed walked the talk. Through the leadership of Dr. Nilda W. Balsicas, SDCA is working towards the institutional sustainability accreditation and achieved the PACOCOA Level 3 accreditation in the occasion of SDCA's 15th year in 2018. Another milestone marks the crystal year of the institution as SDCA opened the 11-story Greg Dom Building 3. With the dynamism of SDCA's industry-seasoned faculty and administrators, the institution was able to achieve various recognition in academics. In the areas of linkages, SDCA continues to have strong relationships with industry partners and academic networks. SDCA's vision to become autonomous status is the mission in the years to come, alongside with the efforts to be recognized as center of development. St. Dominic College of Asia continues to accomplish for the past 15 years is a testimony of its core values of service, dynamism, competence, and accountability. Because in St. Dominic College of Asia, we revolutionized education. beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you, our Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. He didn't want heaven without us. So Jesus, you brought heaven down. My sin was great, your love was greater. What could separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. How sweet is your name, Lord. How good you are. I love to sing your name, Lord. Love to sing who you are. Death could not hold you. The veil tore before you. You silenced the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring. The praise of your glory. For you are raised to life again. You have no rival. You have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the glory. Yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. Nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, Dominicans. Welcome to our faculty members and academic council to another interesting webinar for today. All right, so at the end of this webinar, a Q&A portion will be allotted. So feel free to type in your questions or share your thoughts at the comment section below. And please make sure that you will share this link to your classmates or schoolmates so everybody can watch this webinar for today. I am Ms. Dana Paulino from the Student Development Office, your today's webinar moderator. So to formally start our webinar proper, may I call on the focal person for Critical Thinking Program, Dr. Romeo Parcero. Your today's webinar moderator.
Thank you very much, Miss Dana. First, good afternoon, Dominicans. I would like to say welcome and thank you for attending this webinar. I believe event like this will equip us in our daily judgment and decision making. There are a lot of variables interacting in a poor judgment and decision making, like first impressions last. Once a first impression is made, it is less than great. Unfortunately, it takes a long time to change it. And also stereotyping of people. We should avoid jumping into conclusion. And last, let's try to avoid judgmental people. They are the person who enjoys making harsh judgment of others. Biases and judgment and decision making affects other people. There is a considerable variations in individual decision making ability to the extent that the variances reflect flexible differences. Trainings and seminars could be an effective way to improve human reasoning and better decision making. We are so lucky today to have a webinar like this and of course a very competent speaker to enhance our judgment and decision making using critical thinking skills. Thank you very much.
So much, Doc Parcero, for that very informative opening. And now, without any further ado, let me introduce to you our today's webinar speaker. She is a civil engineer graduate at the Mapui Institute of Technology, completed a diploma in urban and regional planning at the School of Urban and Regional Planning, University of the Philippines, Diliman campus, and currently the head of student affairs and consultant of the Physical Plant and Facilities Department at the Imus Institute of Science and Technology. Let us all welcome Engineer Romary S. Abad de Guzman.
And decision making. I will try to explain their importance in our lives. I will try to explain their importance in our lives, especially to students and young adults like you. By the end of the presentation, you will be learning some engineering terminologies, urban and regional planning many facts and cuentos about my life, since I will be relating the theories to real life practices and how greatly it affected our and improved our lives. I was informed that naglalag daw po. Saglit lang ha. How is it na ma'am? I just need to receive some feedback before I continue so that medyo maayos yung ating ma-receive nyo ng maayos yung ating webinar for today. So, am I clear to go, Ms. Dana? Okay. Well, basically, judgment and decision-making is a process that we unintentionally apply hundreds of times a day. From the time that we wake up, nagde-decide na tayo kaagad whether we are going to go straight to taking a bath or we will stay on bed pa and sleep a little more. So, dun pa lang nagde-decide na tayo. Until we end at night, whether we will sleep late, we will stay up late or we will sleep early. We are still deciding on that. While many decision-making process for important decisions require more time-consuming thinking, it can take place instantaneously and spontaneously in situations that have already occurred or where the outcome is not significant. Gaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, parang paggising, pagtulog, pagkain, instantaneous na lang yon. But there are some outcome, there are some decisions or that we need to think thoroughly. Since better judgments and decisions are important in human life, it is obvious that the way to make better decision is to think better. And before people can benefit significantly from having critical thinking skills. Well, as you progress into becoming future leaders, especially our dear students, increasingly you will need to rely on critical thinking to separate fact from fiction, especially nowadays. You are reading so many things online. We need to decide which one to believe in and which one to put into scratch. Since maraming fake news na sinasabi nga. Then, we also need to transfer knowledge from one context to another, how we are going to apply it in our everyday lives or for our future, and ask the right questions and challenge these assumptions. Okay, let me first discuss with you the outline of the topics which I will be discussing to you. First, what is critical thinking, then critical thinking skills and process, judgment and decision-making, then decision-making techniques. I will be discussing some of the techniques later which are commonly practiced, but there are lots of techniques being used. Actually, most of them are being used simultaneously, side by side. Okay. So what is critical thinking? Critical thinking has been defined in many ways by many researchers working on the subject and has continued to develop by adding different perspectives and information from various fields such as psychology and philosophy since its first introduction. Many researchers agreed that the first definitions of critical thinking were made by John Dewey. In his work, John Dewey called critical thinking as reflective thinking and described it as an active, persistent, and careful evaluation of any belief or supposed formed knowledge in the light of the grounds that support it and further conclusion to which it tends. Dewey in 1910, as early as 1910, may definition na sila ng critical thinking. It was described by Freeland in 2019. So the concept of critical thinking is one of the concepts that are becoming more widely skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and or evaluating. What do we evaluate or synthesize? The information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. Another definition would be, it is metacognition. According to Templar, that is one's ability to think about his or her own thinking process. Also, from Lai, critical thinking is considered to be one of the few learning and innovation skills necessary to prepare students for post-secondary education and labor market. This is where you actually belong to, our dear students. So, according to 2018 report of the World Economic Forum, critical thinking ranks among the rising values until 2022. Career choices are becoming more and more complex. Higher education is becoming more important than ever. As long as critical thinking continues to be a desirable outcome of education, we will need to find ways to help students develop their critical thinking skills and use them. So it is a rising values until 2022. Actually, before I remember there was only civil engineering in our field. However, I've already heard that there is another course called quantity survey. So it was just before part of our job, or it was just another field where we will be going to. Now it became another course. It is whose job description would be more specific. It quantifies everything that is happening in the job site. Sorry, I'll be more technical ng konti for you to before civil engineering, it's the construction, and then the consultancy, and then the design, and many other aspects. Now, they are becoming more specific na. They have specific courses. Kaya we need to think critically before we pursue a degree or before we pursue a career, for us to be able to know where we really want to go. Okay? So, next. Therefore, critical thinking has been the subject of much debate since the time of early Greek philosophers such as Plato and Socrates, and has continued to be the subject of discussion into modern age. For example, in our time, just like what I mentioned earlier, it's our ability to identify the fake news from the real ones, especially there are political issues, environmental issues, and of course, a very recent problem that we are encountering or we are undergoing is the health problems and environment problems. So, in order to grasp and prepare for the future, it is very obvious that critical thinking is a must-have skill for future generations. Next. Okay. You might, please go back to the future slide before, ma'am. You might be wondering what people with critical thinking can do. Someone with critical thinking skills can understand the link between ideas, relate the idea of one idea to another, determine the importance and relevance of arguments and ideas. Therefore, recognize, build, and appraise arguments, not just for the sake of creating arguments, but sometimes arguments could bring out the best in every information or in every ideas that we have. Identify the inconsistencies and errors in reasoning. Once we identify these inconsistencies and errors, then we will be avoiding the don'ts, and we will be able to do the do's. Okay. Approach problems in consistent and systematic way. Instead of sulking, instead of dwelling with the problem, if we approach them positively and systematically, then we will be able to deal with them easily, and we will have a more positive attitude. Then reflect on the justification of their own assumptions, beliefs, and values. Next, please. A way of critical thinking about particular things at a particular time. It is not the accumulation of facts and knowledge or something that you can learn once and then use them in that form over and over again, such as the multiplication table that we have learned in elementary. In the field of critical thinking, in the field of engineering, critical thinking is always being practiced. I remember in one of our subjects, we studied about planning subjects, PERT CPM. Next, please, PERT CPM. Medyo technical tayong konti. Konti lang, don't worry. And don't worry, wala kayong exam ulit mamaya. I was just joking. Unless you wanted me to give you one, okay? Konting computations lang. Okay, PERT CPM or Program Evaluation Review Technique or Critical Path Method. Dito may critical ulit. So what is these diagrams shows the activities laid and scheduled with corresponding duration that could be possibly in terms of days, months, and even years. The numbers inside the circle is the name of the activity, while T is equal to 3 months, ibig sabihin yung time niya is equal to 3 months. This is just an example. I was just giving you an illustration of how a simple, a very basic and simple PERT CPM diagram looks like. Okay, there are activities that can take place simultaneously, but there are activities that needs to start at the end of another activity. Okay, in real life, how can we relate this PERT CPM? Ito yung parang education natin. We start from preschool, then kailangan you have to finish preschool before you can proceed to elementary, then you proceed to high school, junior high school, then senior high school, then college. Then of course, you have to finish college as much. It is a must, I'm telling you guys. Hindi lang nowadays, it's not just tertiary level, as much as possible, mag-postgrad pa. Okay? So, the line from 10 to 30 to 50 is what we call the critical path. It determines the shortest possible time to complete the project. In our life as students, what would be our project? Our main project would be to finish our studies, and this should be the shortest possible time that we will finish our subject. Okay? So why did I tell you this? It's because yung critical thinking natin, kaya natin pinapractice yun for us to be able to decide and eventually to judge and decide on the things that we need to do. Not just in studies, but in everyday lives. Okay? Next, there are different skills that we need in order to be able to think critically, and it includes observation, analysis, interpretation, reflection, evaluation, inference, explanation, problem solving, and still decision making. So, next, specifically, what do we really need to do with all these skills? We need to think about a topic or issue in an objective and critical way, just like what I've mentioned earlier, in addressing problems or in dealing with everyday activities in life. We need to think or view them objectively and critically. We need to identify the different arguments there are in relation to a particular issue. Next, we need to evaluate the point of view, how strong or valid it is. Baka naman may pinaglalaban talaga, then we have to dig deeper. We need to recognize the weaknesses or negative points in the evidence or argument. There might be things that things or actions that we should not do in order to avoid mistakes or committing mistakes in life. Next, notice what implications might be behind a statement or argument, and then provide structured reasoning and support for an argument that we wish to make. Okay, see, critical thinking process. You should be aware that none of us think critically all the time. Hindi naman palagi, nakakapagod din yun. There are times that sometimes you almost think in a way, almost everything except being critical. Mas madalas yung ganon. For example, there are times when we lose our self-control because we are affected by anger, grief, or too much joy. Sometimes even if we are happy, sobrang nakakawala pa rin ng kontrol. I remember the saying, don't make promises when you're happy and don't make curses when you're sad or mad. Kasi affected ng emotions yung pag-iisip natin. Okay, sometimes we are just being bloody-minded, sorry for the term, or just being uncooperative. On the other hand, the good news is that since our critical thinking ability varies according to our current mindset, most of the time we can learn to improve our critical thinking ability by developing certain routine activities and applying them to all problems that present themselves. Minsan, meron tayong checklist na ginagawa in order for us, lalo na pagka mga na-encounter na natin yung mga problems or yung mga pangyayari sa buhay natin. Once you understand the theory of critical thinking, improving your critical thinking skills takes persistence and practice. Next, let's do this simple exercise. Okay? Previous slide, please. Okay. Let's think of something that someone has recently told you. You may want to think about the news that you have read on Facebook or Twitter. Or maybe you could think of something that, let's say, a report that you need to prepare. Somebody has told you that you need to prepare a report for your class. Or, of course, for teenagers or for people like you in the college level, a more exciting topic that you would want to think would be about someone referring to your ex or something referring to the ones that you had. That's something that you had. Okay? Para medyo mag-isip yung ating students. Okay? Next, please. So, pag sinabing, who said it? Someone, syempre, is it someone you know? Or is it someone in a position or authority or power? Or does it matter who told you this? Or who told you about that information? What did they say? Did they give you facts or opinions? Did they provide all the facts? Or are they trying to hide something? Did they leave anything out? Where did they say it? Was it in public or private? If it's in public, then it's most likely they are more liable for what they have said. Did other people have the chance to respond and provide an alternative account? Next. When did they say it? Was it before, during, or an important event? Is the timing important? Why did they say it? Did they explain the reasoning behind their opinion? Or were they trying to make someone look good or bad? Sometimes if it's fake news, they were just trying to create chaos or to create parang disturbance sa mga tao, 'di ba? About the news. I don't want to mention any particular news, but the different current events that's happening right now, maraming, some people are trying to look other people bad, or yung iba naman, pinibida nila, even if it's not true. Sorry. How long did they say it? Were they happy or sad? Angry or different? Did they write it or say it? Could you understand what was said? Okay, these questions, kapag tinanong nyo siya, is making you think critically. So, scientifically speaking, researchers, next please, have identified 6 steps of critical thinking, effective critical thinking. Starting at the bottom of the triangle, we have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Next slide, please. What do we need to remember? We need to remember different information or names, description, or maybe a list. What do we have to understand about Critical thinking. Can we explain ideas or concept? What do we need to apply? Can we use this information in a new way? In analyzing, we need to distinguish, compare, or investigate the different parts. In evaluating, we need to justify or choose a stand or decision. And then, to create, the students should be able to create a new product or point of view out of all the informations that we had. Okay, so ano ba talaga ang gusto nating marating? Ano bang gusto nating maabutin? One of the most important aspects of critical thinking is to decide what you are aiming to achieve and then make a better judgment and decision based on a range of possibilities. Okay, I'll make kwento. I remember my daughter when she was about to start college, when she was in 4th year high school, she was asking me, Ma, what course should I take? And then I told her, would you like to become a doctor? So, medicine. She said, Ma, alam mo namang takot ako sa dugo. Okay. Would you like to be a lawyer? Ang daming imi-memorize dun eh. Ayoko dun. And then, how about engineering? My husband is also a graduate of electrical engineering, so maybe she's interested. She's inclined to become an engineer also. Sabi niya, ayoko nun, maraming math. O sige ka. How about accountancy? Sabi niya, ayoko nun, ang dami rin nang mag-accounting sa mga kaklase ko eh. Sabi ko sa kanya, anak, ano bang gusto mong gawin sa buhay? And then she answered me, straightforward, very plain and simple, I want to travel. Oh my God. Okay. You want to travel. And of course, in order to travel, you need to be rich or you have to earn something first. Therefore, we thought of a way on how she could travel in the future and work at the same time. Or she could get paid while traveling. So that's where she started. That's where we started. Then, tsaka kami nag-identify ng possible courses, ng possible na trabaho kung saan makakapag-travel siya as part of her job. Now, I'm proud to say that she's already a flight attendant at Qatar Airways. And she gets to travel a lot, but she's still complaining, don't worry. Next slide, please. So, going back, yung judgment niya, yung decision niya, alam niya na. Kaya yung critical thinking, in-apply niya into deciding what she wants to do in her life. Okay. So, judgment has a number of meanings. Ano ba, after applying critical thinking, we need to make good judgment and decision-making. So, the role of judgment in decision-making. Next slide, please. Judgment has a number of meanings. So, some additional clarity is needed to address our questions on judgment and decision-making. We are excluding specific legal and religious definitions. They're not included, ha? Let's simplify judgment with this meaning. Ability, capacity, or faculty to make considered and effective decisions, come to sensible conclusions, perceive and distinguish relationships, understand situations, and form objective opinion, especially in matters that affect action. Also, the internal thinking, cognitive process, or act of reaching a decision, drawing sound conclusion, forming an opinion, or making critical distinctions about people, situations, ideas, events, through assessment, comparison, and/or deliberation. Lastly, the conclusion, determination, or outcome produced from exercising or demonstrating judgment. Next slide, please. The judgment in the context of decision-making is the ability or capacity to decide. Simpleng-simple lang. The thought, process used to decide. Pinag-isipan. the decision outcome that comes from exercising judgment. Diba? Paikot-ikot lang siya. Yun din lang ang ibig sabihin. Pinag-isipan. So, hindi lang niya nilagay dito yung critical term, but yun pa rin, ginamit yung critical thinking before making a judgment and decision. Okay. Next slide, please. So how do we improve judgment in decision making? According to Dr. Kirke-Bowen, a psychologist, he summarizes in his books Decision Behavior, Improving Expert Judgment, a number of findings that may provide help in improving our judgment when making decisions. He mentioned ineffective methods. Ineffective ha? Hindi raw maganda or hindi successful. Identify some improvement strategies that evidences suggest are not effective. Incentives that reward higher decision quality. This motivates more effort, but is not suggested that accuracy is not improved because people do not possess the thinking capacity to enable better decisions. Essentially, humans need to simplify, leading to the errors mentioned previously. Minsan yung simplifying in Tagalog ay katamaran. Dahil tinatamad tayo, we take the shortcuts, thus making our decisions not so good, not so nice. Okay? Again, increase decision accountability. Again, this inspires additional work, but also leads to biases to gain favor with those authority and focus on easily justified elements of decision. Pagka may pinapaboran ka, hindi rin nagiging maganda yung judgment natin. Siyempre, alam na natin yon. Let's not talk politics, okay? So what are the effective methods? Kirke-Bowen identifies cognitive and technological strategies as two areas where evidence has shown that judgment in decision-making can be improved. Here are some methods. Take an outside view. Or, as you would always hear your professors say, think outside the box. This, it's sometimes, or it's not just thinking outside the box, or sometimes we need to get the opinions of others who's not on our shoes. Minsan, we need to get suggestions from other people. Later on, meron din ko kontra din dyan. Okay? Consider the opposite. Yun yon. If we are thinking of going to or going pro, let's think otherwise. How about going against? Para lang makita natin yung pros and cons. And then, combine the individual judgment of a group. Individual people think differently. No two people think alike. Everything, as in identically alike. Even yung magkakapatid, gaya nga na sinasabi nila. So, take their individual judgment. Then, sometimes they automate repeatable decision-making situations. For certain circumstances, linear models have methodically outperformed the experts, suggesting that recurring decisions should be automated to a much greater extent. There are some things that are, kumbaga, prejudged na, decided na, if it's the same situation. However, for this different situation, it needs to undergo another process para ma-address siya properly. Okay, however, next slide, please. Okay, that's it. One common belief that Kirke-Bowen discredits is that experience improves decision quality, citing evidence that shows the observed accuracy of expert judgment is not related to experience. Again, accuracy of expert judgment is not always related to experience. Hindi palagi dahil experience na sila, expert na yung judgment nila. Okay, So after we have made a judgment, then we need to decide. Therefore, decision is a choice among the existing alternatives. According to Drucker, it is a judgment who is regarded as the guru of management science. He stated that the decision is a judgment or choice which of the two alternatives is the closest to the truth. Two alternatives, ha? Not being right or being wrong. Okay, you have two alternatives. You just have to decide which one you will choose, but not being right or being wrong. Okay. Decision means also to cut off deliberation and to come to a conclusion, according to business management ideas. Therefore, defining decision making, it is the process of identifying problems and opportunities and then providing solutions to them. Problems and opportunities, then solution. Okay. Then from R.S. Davar, he defined decision-making as the election based on some criteria of one behavior alternative from two or more possible alternatives. To decide means, ibig niya sabihin ng decide, cut off the practical content to come to a conclusion. Carl Wig described decision-making as one of the most important activities people can engage in. According to him, decision-making is the identification and determination of a given situation and what to do in this context. So decision-making is only part of the work that managers usually does and does not take that much time. But making important decision is a special managerial task. That's where we are preparing you. So how do we make an important decision? Next, please. Paano daw ba gumawa? Paano tayo magde-decide kapag alam na nating it will change drastically our lives or our future? There is a 7 steps to effective decision making. Well, in reality, ito is I'm just telling you the theories. Pero in reality, pinapractice na naman natin to eh. Before making a decision, we identify the decision, kumbaga, then we gather information. Okay, later. This one, again, is the part CPM. Next page, please. I will discuss the 7 steps of effective decision-making, relating them to the PERT CPM diagram. Again, here. Okay. Identify the decisions, or others call this stage the awareness of the problem. At this stage, the decision maker becomes aware that a problem that needs to be solved, or sometimes it's not just a problem, but we need to make a decision, a basic decision in our lives. Okay, maybe what career you will pursue, or maybe what job or you would want to take, or what industry you would want to work with when you graduate. Then after that, you gather relevant information. So from step 1, going to step 6, there are 3 ways, 1, 3, and 5 going to 6. Another is 1 directly to 6, dun sa PERT CPM ha, and then 1, 2, 4, and 6. This routes varies depende kung ano yung gusto nyo ngang gawin or i-pursue na career. Sometimes, of course, being a doctor requires more stages in lives na pagde-decide nila. But when you are dealing with a more simple course or simple degree that you would want to finish, less complicated than becoming a doctor or a lawyer, or much shorter courses, then we can go straight from 1 to 6. Okay. Then, we identify our alternatives. Like, for example, in my case, again, sabi ko nga sa inyo, marami kayong kwentong maririnig. When I was about to enroll in college, what happened was my mother talked to me a day before enrolling in a pre-med school. You know what happened? On my birthday, she asked me to think again if I really want to pursue medicine. Unfortunately, she told me that maybe we would not be able to pursue medicine because we do not have that much money. Therefore, I have to reconsider my decision. And then, instead of enrolling the next day in a med school, I'm taking up an entrance examination at the Mapua Institute of Technology. Then the rest is history. In short, yung premeditated ko na gusto ko na talaga, hindi natupad because I have to think of other alternatives. And I weigh the evidences, the first step, and evaluate the alternatives kasi nga hindi namin kakayanin. And of course, with the resources that we have, I need to select the best alternative. And that would be taking up engineering instead of medicine. Then, of course, yung sixth step would be take action and implement and verify the decision. Well, thankfully, I was able to finish engineering and reviewing, or the seventh step in effective decision making. The consequences, I became one of the boys. Instead, initially, I graduated from all girls na prim and proper. After graduating engineering, I was one of the boys then. Okay, so after identifying the steps of effective decision making and relating them in our lives, we will now learn the techniques used in decision making and where and how they are used to. Okay, there are many techniques that can be used at various stages of the decision process and make it easier to make more accurate decisions. Examples of which are the group discussion, marginal analysis, cost-benefit. Sige, sasakit ang ulo nyo pag minamemorize ko sa inyong lahat. However, you don't need to memorize dyan. I will show you na napapractice nyo na to, hindi nyo lang alam. Okay, first would be the decision trees. Decision options are represented by the branches of the decision trees. Okay, in this type of technique, ang ginagawa nito, mula sa malaki, sa trunk, papaliit sa branches, hinihimay-himay niya yung supposed to be decision niya. And then, with this decision tree technique, it is possible to examine the whole decision situation, subsequent decisions that will emerge, and to be aware of the different views and alternatives as critical thinking requires, and approach them in an open-minded manner. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, 6 thinking hats, the second technique. The 6 thinking hats was developed by Edward de Bono. Highly effective way of dealing with the same 6 thinking hats. Yeah, there. Highly effective way of dealing with the same subject from different perspectives and using 6 hats. It will protect the individuals from one-sided perspectives. It is similar in the saying that putting yourselves in other people's shoes. Parang ganun yun. This 6 thinking hats, it's like wearing different hats and approaching differently or think differently based on the color of the hat that you're wearing. Next, fishbone analysis. Fishbone technique created by Japanese quality expert Dr. Kaoru Ishikawa, also called the root cause analysis or Ishikawa diagram, stands out an important technique in investigating the causes of the problem. Yung pinagmulan, root cause. Okay, this technique usually demonstrates the underlying causes of problems in detail and helps reveal which problems interact with each other in a regular manner. This technique is often used in urban and regional planning field, where planners dig deeper to the root cause of the environment or transportation. As mentioned earlier, I took up a postgraduate degree of urban and regional planning. There, we use, for example, for a very common problem, environmental problem, let's go dun sa medyo hindi mabigat sa loob, yung konti lang. Degradation of natural resources. What are the causes of degradation of natural resources? Ano ba talaga? Is it yung the practices of the people? If you say it's the practices of the people, you dig deeper pa. Bakit yung practices ng mga tao hindi tama? Anong possible reason? Lack of discipline, pwede yon. Pwede ring lack of education, that they are aware that they are creating bad effects, or they're degrading our natural resources. Maraming possible reason. And then you still dig deeper. Bakit kulang sa education? Anong problema? Hindi ba sila naturuan? Or kulang ba yung knowledge nila? Alam niyo yung pupuntahan mo yung pinakaumpisa na pinagmumulan ng problema. It's not just superficial or the surface problems lang. That's how fishbone analysis is done. Next, brainstorming. This technique, of course, alam niyo na ang brainstorming. Oftentimes, we practice it sa mga group works, based on generating as many ideas as possible. No discussion or criticism of ideas. Possible ideas lang. Okay, bring in ideas. And then, out of these ideas that we have suggested, we will decide which is the best. That is brainstorming. Well, nominal group technique is the opposite of brainstorming. Nominal group technique, actually, it's similar to brainstorming daw. In this technique, people in the group do not interact nga lang. Developed by Delbecq and Van de Ven. However, dito, sa brainstorming kasi, ang difference nila, they talk, they interact. But for nominal, they do not interact with each other to find a new ideas. What they do is they passes their idea to a manager. And then the manager eventually will collate all the ideas. And then later on, he will pass it to the members that these are the set of ideas provided by the group, and then you will vote again based on the ideas that was presented. So hindi kayo nag-uusap-usap. So nominal and brainstorming are somewhat different at the same and different at the same time. Okay. Next, the Delphi technique. The Delphi technique is a decision-making technique that allows group participants to it does not allow to make face-to-face communication, but identifies a problem and presents solutions using a questionnaire. This technique is important, is good, or it's used since it prevents participants from being inclined to adapt to group norms because they are not in the same environment. Sometimes kasi the decision of the people are being affected by their surroundings. If their surroundings is pro a situation, for example, pro environment, they are being affected. They are being motivated into becoming pro-environment. However, if you're not in the same group or the same environment and you are just answering a questionnaire, you will be able to think more separately from the others. That is the difference of Delphi technique. Sometimes kailangan natin na tayo lang. Hindi palaging may point of view ng iba. Okay? And last but not the least is the devil's advocate technique. Devil's advocate is a technique used in decision making as a group is tasked with questioning the group's assumption and approaches through critical evaluation. The devil's advocate, which eliminates the tendency to group think again, yung mag-isip ng sama-sama, is an important obstacle in group decisions and help make more qualified decisions. It reveals possible negative situations related to the ideas and alternatives generated. Can be combined with brainstorming, then someone will act as the devil's advocate. Okay, kwento ko ulit. Recently lang, very recent. By the way, share ko lang, sasabihin na naman ng mga anak ko, kasama na naman sila sa lecture. My son is a first-year college student at present at the Maritime Academy of Asia and the Pacific. Doon, semi-regimental sila. And then he met a friend who was telling him na, alam mo, natatakot ako na mag-20 years old. Sabi ng bata. Sabi ng anak ko, bakit? Ilang taong ka na ba? I'm 19 years old. Sabi niya gano'n. So, sabi niya, bakit ka natatakot? Natatakot akong magkaroon ng responsibility, sabi ng bata. Parang takot siya sa responsibilidad. Parang ang thinking ng bata, when you are 20 years old, you are old enough to take responsibilities. So sabi ng anak ko, ngayon, tinanong siya, sabi niya, bakit? Wala ka bang responsibility sa bahay ngayon? Alam mo yon, it made him think na, oo nga, ano ba? Simple things. Sometimes, ayaw natin yon, pero simple things at home, malaking ano na yun eh. Just like what I was telling my kids, we have a responsibility to ourselves, responsibility to our family, to our parents, to our siblings. We have responsibility to our teachers. We have responsibility to our neighbors. We have responsibility to our environment, to the government, and even most especially, we have responsibility kay God. So, even at a very young age, so even if at very young age, meron na tayong responsibility. So yun yung ginawa ng anak ko. Bakit? Wala ka bang responsibility? He contradicted the idea of his classmate na even at a young age, meron na tayong responsibility. And that made him think. Fortunately, ang maganda ron, nakapag-isip na siya na oo nga naman pala, may response. Sometimes devil's advocate, nakakapag-bring out talaga siya ng best in every situation. Okay, sometimes all of these techniques are being applicable, used together to produce better decisions. Mawawala na ako ulit sa ano. Okay, so summarizing the theories, next please. Concepts, engineering terms, and urban and regional planning terms, real-life stories, and of course, my kwentos. What can we say? Applying critical thinking method to make better judgment and decision prevents individuals from making mistakes and generally leads to better decisions compared to decisions based on intuition lang. Next, please. In the light of all the above information, we can say that critical thinking is of great importance in the judgment and decision-making process. And as individuals, our critical thinking capacities, our judgment and decisions will yield more positive results for ourselves. Next, please. And of course, various techniques used in decision making help to improve the quality of critical thinking. So before I end my presentation, let us all ponder on this quote from a very famous philosopher, Aristotle. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So that ends my presentation. I'd like to thank St. Dominic for giving me the opportunity to discuss these things with you guys this afternoon. Sir Romeo Parcero, my mentor, thank you for inviting me. And I hope hindi kita pinapahiya sa mga audience mo. And then to Miss Dana and Miss Jemeline, thank you also. And okay, parting words. I may be working in the academy right now, but my first and foremost role in life is a mother to my kids, a wife to my husband, and a daughter to my parents. However, I was once like you guys. I was once in your shoes, on your shoes. There may be ifs and buts in my life, but critical thinking, when practiced properly, will lead to better judgment and life-changing decision making. Stay safe and God bless us all.
All right. Thank you so much, Engineer De Guzman, for sharing your knowledge about enhancing judgment and decision making, which actually plays an important part in everybody's life because we all make decisions, and it is vital that we know the various techniques in decision making. Although we cannot grasp it in one sitting, but at least we have an idea, right? And hopefully in the future we can dig deeper through these topics. So it's almost past two, so we will not be pushing through with the Q&A portion. So once again, I'd like to thank the focal person for critical thinking program, Dr. Romeo Parcero, and of course to our speaker, Engineer Romary de Guzman, for having your time with us. Thank you so much. And to our viewers, thank you for watching this webinar. And I'd like to remind our students for your e-certificates, please comment your name, program, and section to be able to get your e-certificates from us. Once again, thank you so much. Please note the schedules of our upcoming webinars. I will be flashing it on our screen.